Long ago, before the age of the internet, there was a Pokemon that was truly capable of everything. It was a Pokemon that could be a defensive piece on your team, or utilize its great speed and coverage moves as an attacker. It was a Pokemon that ruled over generation after generation. The Pokemon's name was Starmie. Starmie was among the Pokemon that ruled the first generation. At a first glance, it's a frail attacker, with its high stats being its speed and special attack, but upon closer inspection, it's far more well-rounded. Though it has low HP, its defenses are quite decent, and its great water psychic defensive typing alongside recover makes it able to sponge resisted hits quite well. As the years went by, generation after generation, Starmie proved itself as a metagame staple. It gained Rapid Spin to stabilize teams against Spikes and Stealth Rock, and its good traits remained strong. But like all Pokemon, power creep caught up to Starmie. Its speed was no longer among the fastest in the game. It wasn't strong anymore, and its defensive properties were no longer as desirable in a world full of min-maxed Pokemon. And in Generation 7, Starmie fell to UU, and it crashed down all the way to NU in Generation 8. Starmie's golden era had come to an end. Its stats simply were not good enough for the modern age. There's also one other thing I should inform you about. I said previously that Starmie could fill any role it wanted to, but that isn't exactly true. Starmie's physical attack was never good enough for it to take on the role of a physical attacker. He used Rapid Spin, sure, but that was hardly for its wall-breaking power. Regardless though, even if its physical attack matched its special, it wouldn't matter. It was far from enough this late into the game. But there was still hope for Starmie, even today. Its heritage as a Gen 1 Pokemon made it a likely candidate for some kind of reinvigoration, as almost every evolutionary line in the Kanto region has received some kind of love. A Z-move won't cut it. Starmie's playstyle is not conducive to blowing up the opponent with an attack once per game. It likes to switch in and out in favorable positions while moving the needle in your favor each time, or at least stopping the opponent from doing so. A Gigantamax form wouldn't cut it either for the same reason. What Starmie needed was an evolution, or better yet, a Mega Evolution. In Legend ZA, Starmie received a Mega form, which entails a stat point upgrade of 100, though in ZA there are a few exceptions that receive a base 140 points, but I'll go into that later. Starmie received stats across the board, improving just about all of them except HP. Starmie's base 100 special attack jumped to 130. Its defenses were beefed up, and oddly enough, it went from 75 attack to 140. These were massive jumps for sure, but it's odd they're split this way. Starmie was always a special attacker, so splitting the stat distribution this way was really weird. In fact, they were actually a bad thing. Base 130 special attack and 140 attack aren't bad, but that's for normal Pokemon. With a boosting item or ability, 130 is actually quite incredible. But for a Mega Pokemon, it's simply not enough. There are Mega Pokemon like Aerodactyl, Lopunny, and Mega Charizard X that have stats around this range, but they all have something to offset that. Aerodactyl and Charizard have the Tough Claws ability, boosting their moves to monstrous levels of damage, and a setup move in Dragon Dance. And Lopunny has moves like High Jump Kick and Return that were already high in base power, and a great stab combination as well as an ability to hit ghost types using Scrappy. Starmie, well, it has Hydro Pump, but it's inaccurate, and Water Psychic in general just isn't the best stab combination. Its higher attack stat also only has consistent but lower power moves than the other three I just mentioned, like Liquidation and Psycho Cut. If I haven't illustrated the point already, maybe this clip will.
The nickname is tough though, the original. Oh yeah,
wait,
let's
what
go,
is this?
let's go. Whoa. Whoa. Yo, but surely.
Like, bro.
Surely.
Oh.
No, that's not even possible though.
This is certain man's favorite Mega, bro.
No,
Some of you in this chat.
no,
this is
Chad,
who
that's
you-
not even,
this
I
is
don't even
who-
understand. Nah, but look how it lived freeze dry. Observe.
Wait, 29 doesn't even make how? It's still
Shout out to Jasper for
140,
10.
bro.
That is not the best. Your Mega Pokemon should really be doing a lot more damage than this. But this could be offset by a great speed stat, but it's not particularly fast either. 120 isn't slow, but it still has the issue base Starmie did in that it's getting outsped by too many Pokemon that threaten it. The aforementioned Aerodactyl and Lopunny both run circles around Starmie, and there's new Pokemon like Tapu Koko and Zamazenta that are also both faster. And that's not even mentioning the ever-present Dragapult. That is not enough for your Mega Pokemon. You only get one. And while Starmie's stats are good, it's a Mega Pokemon. It's neither fast enough, bulky enough, or strong enough to use as your once per game Mega Evolution, when there are so many others that are faster, stronger, and just bigger linchpins on their teams. Doing less than half to Kyurem just isn't enough in 2025. So at first glance, even with a Mega Evolution, it seems that Starmie will still fade as a fleeting ghost from the past. But you know, there is actually something strange about Starmie's stats. I'll put them side by regular Starmies. Do you see it? Mega Pokemon in Legend ZA get a plus 100 base stat total boost, but there are a select few that get a plus 140 base stat point increase. Two of these Pokemon are Mega Mawile and Mega Medicham, who also normally have plus 100 in their stats, but in ZA they have received an additional 40 points in their attacking stats. This is to make up for the fact that they do not receive their abilities, Pure Power and Huge Power in ZA, which were critical for their damage output, as they double their respective Pokemon's attacking stat. Now, knowing that these two Pokemon have these abilities, as well as a plus 140 base stat total boost in ZA, I'd like to direct you to the difference in stats between Starmie and its Mega. Notice anything? Like Medicham and Mawile, Starmie has also been blessed by a 140 base stat boost, and it has an attack stat equal to theirs. While with most Mega Pokemon in ZA we cannot know their abilities, with this information, we can pretty safely assume that Starmie will have an ability similar to Mega Medicham and Mawile. Since those two have an ability that boosts their attack stats, we can infer that Starmie will have an ability just like Pure Power that doubles its attack. So the true distribution of Starmie's stats looks a little more like this. Of course, Starmie's attack is actually functionally much higher, since Pure Power also doubles the attack investment you put into a Pokemon. But even ignoring that, it already has an attack stat that far surpasses Deoxys' attack form, and that completely flips how we look at this Pokemon. Mega Medicham and Mega Mawile were already incredible Pokemon because of their damage output from Huge Power. Starmie has that too, but is far faster than the others with its base 120 speed stat, which is now recontextualized to be incredible for a Pokemon with this attacking prowess. The dual stab combination of Water Psychic still isn't the best, but is far better, since Mega Starmie, unlike the other two, can make use of its special attacking stat, with the moves like Ice Beam and Thunderbolt for coverage, which can fry some of the Pokemon that try to wall Starmie's physical moves. Mega Starmie is a Pokemon with true merit that justifies its slot as your Mega Pokemon. In fact, to prove this, I would use it in a tournament. Thunder Blunder 777, for a while at this point, had been hosting Legend ZA tournaments with the new Megas alongside the current Scarlet and Violet OU format. The problem for Starmie is that it doesn't have its true ability in those tournaments, so it's been left struggling to say the least. But now, in this new tournament series, almost every new Mega Pokemon has been granted a different ability, including Starmie with Pure Power. This would be the first tournament Blunder would be hosting with these rules, so I definitely wanted to take part. The reason why I chose Starmie though, wasn't actually because I had been wanting to use it specifically. See, the clip I've been showing of Blunder's stream with Starmie dealing pitiful damage to Kyurem is actually of my buddy Flower, and I wanted to redeem his performance. That was my goal in entering this tournament. I had plenty of time to build a team, so I put Starmie in my team builder. But I wasn't 100% sure of what set I wanted to run on it because Starmie just has so many options. Instead, I would build the base of the rest of the team first, and then build Starmie to better assist it. So what else did I need? Mega Starmie has been one of the more popular Mega Evolutions ever since people saw it in the game. Its human-like tendencies have spawned many memes, and it's quite funny if I do say so myself. And with its new ability, I thought a lot of people would be bringing it to this tournament, so I needed my own hard counter to Mega Starmie. This made me go through a couple of Pokemon. I was first told about the Slow Twins, Slowking and Slowbro, that could handle Starmie's stab combination quite well. But that would mean I would have two Pokemon with the exact same typing on my team, so those were a no-go. I then heard people in Legend ZA OU were using Gourgeist to counter Starmie, but then I saw that Gourgeist wasn't in Scarlet and Violet, and it didn't have a new Mega, so it wasn't allowed in Blunder's tournament anyway. I then took a look at Sinistcha, a Pokemon with the same Grass Ghost typing as Gourgeist. It seemed like a pretty good substitute until I ran the numbers. Sinistcha could easily take the water moves from Starmie, but Zen Headbutt and Ice Beam could break through it easily with Stealth Rock. But then my buddy Flower from before suggested a Pokemon that fit perfectly. Every generation of Pokemon introduces new legendaries, and almost every generation introduces a group of sub-legendaries as well. Scarlet and Violet were no different, bringing the treasures of Ruin into the game. Chi-Yu, a dark and fire type Pokemon, hailed for its Beads of Ruin's ability that reduces the special defense of all Pokemon other than itself by 25%. This combined with its great base 135 special attack stat, ability to halt an item, great stab combination, and high damage moves like Fire Blast and Overheat, makes Chi-Yu a threatening wall breaker. But it's not the Starmie counter that I want. It can take the Psychic moves as an immunity, but Water moves utterly fry it, and Aqua Jet from Starmie means it cannot act as an offensive check either. And it's just banned too, so it wouldn't be able to use it anyway, even if I wanted to. Chen Pao, the Sword of Ruin, reduces 25% of the opponent's defense stat. This combined with its amazing speed stat and stab combination make it able to offensively check Mega Starmie. But like Chi-Yu, it cannot switch into Starmie and well, it's also bad. Ting Lu is an amazing defensive Pokemon, and because it's not a massive offensive threat, it actually isn't banned. Do not underestimate Ting Lu because of this though. Its Vessel of Ruin ability reduces the opponent's special attack by 25%, allowing it to fight special attackers, even at the peak of power like Miraidon, which was banned from the ban list here of Ubers because of its sheer power. Ting Lu would make a fine addition to my team because of its dark typing, but like Chi-Yu, it's far too weak to Starmie's water moves for me to use. These are the treasures of Ruin that have covered competitive Pokemon since their release, in both VGC and singles. But they're not going to work for my team, so why even mention them in the first place? Well, that's because there's a fourth treasure of Ruin, one that nobody talks about in competitive play. The Pokemon known as Wo-Chien. Wo-Chien is a grass and dark type with the Tablets of Ruin ability, which reduces the physical attack of all Pokemon except itself by 25%. But Wo-Chien is held back by its grass dark typing. It's a double-edged sword. It's left with many weaknesses, meaning it cannot serve its defensive roles as expected. But like any double-edged sword, it also has its uses. That grass dark typing is exactly what I'm looking for. The grass type will resist opposing Starmie's water moves, while its dark types will make it immune to the psychic ones. Sure, it's weak to Starmie's Ice Beam, but Wo-Chien's naturally massive special defense stat means it can handle the punishment. I outfitted Wo-Chien with Leftovers, Leech Seed, and Protect to get as much health back as possible every turn. I give it Foul Play to turn a Pokemon like Mega Excadrill's high attack stat against it. And then I was a bit conflicted between two moves. Giga Drain would make my matchup into Mega Greninja and other grass-root Pokemon much better, while Knockoff would give me more options against Mega Delphox and help my team make progress. In the end, I decided to start off with Knockoff, as in Blunder's tournaments, you're allowed to switch teams and moves in between rounds, so I would try to use both whenever appropriate or if I liked one more than the other. I maxed out Wo-Chien's HP and special defense, and with that, my secret weapon against other Mega Starmie was created. While I was set on Wo-Chien, putting it on the team did add many weaknesses I'd have to accommodate for. In particular, Bug was a massive issue, with many Pokemon carrying the move U-Turn. Both Starmie and Wo-Chien were weak to this attack, so I needed a Pokemon that could punish or at least dissuade my opponents from mindlessly clicking it, and I had just the Pokemon in mind. I know that I said before that power creep comes for all Pokemon. Over time, you simply get eclipsed by the new Pokemon added to the game, with their better optimized stats, new moves, and abilities. But there is one Pokemon that has evaded the sands of time, almost completely. One Pokemon has remained OU viable from the beginning to the modern day. That Pokemon is the legendary bird, Zapdos. Given the moniker Halal Popeyes, Zapdos' electric flying typing gives it a host of great resistances and an immunity to ground. One of such resistances is the bug type, so it gives me a good defensive answer to U-turn. But it also actively punishes the use of U-turn with its static ability, giving it a 30% chance to paralyze opponents when they come into contact with Zapdos. This combined with Thunder Wave makes Zapdos a great defensive piece, complementing the team, allowing it to come into bug or fighting type moves that Chen hates, and then paralyzing foes for Starmie to pick off later. I originally considered Moltres for this team over Zapdos, but its 4x rock weakness made it less consistent against fighting type Pokemon like Zamazenta that sometimes carry rock type moves. For Zapdos, Roost is near mandatory to keep its longevity by recovering half its health per use, and for the electric move I slotted in Volt Switch to allow Zapdos to deal damage while switching out. The final move, Hurricane, acts as a power button for Zapdos to click to deal massive damage, so it isn't left being too passive against ground types like Landorus Therian and Great Tusk. Max HP and defense makes Zapdos a physical wall that Pokemon like Great Tusk and Zamazenta can struggle to break through. Terra Steel is just the default Terra typing I went with, nothing special there. Though I opted for Zapdos over Moltres, I still wanted a fire type on my team, one that could handle special moves, and I still needed a Pokemon that could set Stealth Rock. That pointed me to one place. Heatran, the Lava Dome Pokemon, has been a sturdy wall since its debut in Generation 4, and although in Gen 9 it has taken many nerfs, it still remains a Pokemon of merit with its unique defensive profile and Magma Storm. Magma Storm is a 75% accurate base 100 power move that traps a target in with Heatran, dealing residual damage each turn. This combined with Heatran's taunt means Heatran always makes progress whenever Magma Storm hits, slowly KOing defensive Pokemon after stopping their healing, or by blowing massive holes into ground types like Landorus Therian. Heatran also has the added benefit of Flash Fire, an ability that not only makes Heatran immune to fire type moves, but it absorbs them to boost its own. But that's not the only ability Heatran has. It also has the Flame Body ability, an ability like Zapdos' Static, but it applies Burn 30% of the time instead of Paralysis. I wouldn't be using this ability though, but I could bluff Heatran having it to further dissuade opponents from clicking moves like U-turn. Heatran would also be my Stealth Rock setter, and I gave it Earth Power for coverage. Now I needed Hazard Control for my team, and another physical attacker to better round it out. So I went to a familiar face that some of you might recognize from my previous video, Scizor. This time, instead of Choice Band, I would be running Heavy Duty Boots as I needed this Scizor for utility rather than pure offense. I wanted Bullet Punch 2 of course, to pick off fast but frail Pokemon, but I also needed to remove hazards to allow my Starmie to move around freely. This is where Scizor's defog comes into play. It clears hazards like Stealth Rock on both sides of the field, as well as other effects like terrain. Knockoff removes items from my opponents, and like any good Scizor should have, I gave it U-turn. At this point, my team was coming together quite swimmingly. The only things I needed to add were the moves on Starmie and the final Pokemon. But what should I even run on Starmie? It has so many options. It has incredibly strong physical attacks, of course, but it has great utility potential with moves like Rapid Spin and Recover, and can be a setup sweeper with Bulk Up, or a mixed attacker with a combination of its physical and special moves like Ice Beam and Thunderbolt. I thought about Bulk Up at first. It would boost Starmie's attack and defense to let it win games, but I didn't like it. There was a lot of Pokemon that could come in on Water and Psychic type moves, and if I didn't have Rapid Spin, I wouldn't be able to boost my speed. But if I did have Rapid Spin, I couldn't fit on another coverage move. It just felt too clunky to be a solid win condition. I also thought about the mix sets, incorporating moves like Ice Beam and Thunderbolt to supplement Starmie's physical offense. But honestly, I'd rather have my Zapdos in if I wanted to click electric type moves. And that line of thought brought me to my answer. See, in competitive single battling, there is a strategy known as a Volt Turn. In Generation 5, the move Volt Switch was added to the game, a 70 base power special move that deals damage while switching the user out. This is combined with the physical move U-Turn, a bug type equivalent of the move added in Generation 4. These two moves created a powerful Vortex strategy. If you position, say, a Zapdos with the Volt Switch on a water type, the opponent would want to switch in a Pokemon Pokemon that was immune or resisted it, like a grass type. But the Volt Switch would hit the resisted Pokemon and allow you to bring in a Pokemon with U-turn to threaten the same situation again. Repeat this about a dozen times over the course of a match, and you've got a weakened team for a cleaner to sweep through. I had the Volt Switch element in on Zapdos and U-turn on Scizor, but I wanted a third leg to this strategy. That is the role I wanted Starmie to fill. It was much stronger than Zapdos and Scizor. It wouldn't just chip the opponent, it would chunk them every time it hit the pivot move. And as it happens, in Generation 8, the Isle of Armor DLC granted Starmie Flip Turn. You can think of it as U-turn but blue, and this completed my Volt Turn trio, softening opposing teams for Starmie itself in an endgame where it could clean up with Zen Headbutt, Liquidation, and Aqua Jet, a 40 base power water type move with a special trait of almost always going first. But Volt Turn's true potential is brought out by a Pokemon in the back that cleans up after the Volt Turners have torn holes into the opponent's team. And while Starmie could sort of function like that, it's more of a breaker for another Pokemon to clean up after it's done. And well, I don't have any hype to build up for this Pokemon. It's a sweeper that if you asked an AI chatbot for a cleaner for or a win condition, it'd spit this one out. Chat CTC, the Iron Valiant. It carries booster energy speed to make it faster than every other Pokemon in the game the first time it comes out onto the field. I've outfitted Iron Valiant with the move Encore, a status move that forces the opponent to use the move they just used the turn before. And combined with the booster energy speed, this allows Iron Valiant to create its own opportunities to set up a Calm Mind, boosting its special attack and special defense to enable it to clean up teams with a Moonblast and a Shadow Ball. I use Terra Ghost to further boost its Shadow Ball, also giving Chat CTC an immunity to Dragonite's extreme speed and flipping its poison weakness into a resistance. Iron Valiant is one of the most popular Gen 9 Pokemon for a reason. With moves like Encore and Calm Mind combined with booster energy speed, it can flip a game on its head with a moment's notice, fully self-sufficiently. This was the team I came up with to redeem Mega Starmie, but even if I thought it was good in theory, practice was a different matter. But I believed in the team I built, and so I entered Blunder's tournament with it. Blunder's tournament series uses a unique rule set. It is a combination of the current Gen 9 OU format with the new ZA Mega Pokemon and their new moves. Along with this, it is a single elimination bracket best of 1, so if I lose even one time, I'm out of the tournament. My first opponent was Viluda, a trainer using a Mega Scrafty. With the power of Mega Evolution, Scrafty is able to become a powerful setup sweeper using Bulk Up and Drain Punch. My team isn't super weak into it, but I would do well not to underestimate its many options. What I was more concerned about though was Kyurem, a Pokemon like Starmie that can run many different sets, but the difference is that each Kyurem set is equally as threatening. Choice Specs Kyurem can make use of its massive 130 base special attack amplified by its item and use powerful moves like Ice Beam, Earth Power, and Draco Meteor to try and claim a KO every time it comes in. Though with Heatran holding the air balloon, I do have at least one free check for it. There's also the Dragon Dance loaded dice set, which I used previously. It turns Kyurem into a Pokemon that makes the mere threat of its special moves turn into an opportunity for it to set up with Dragon Dance and Snowball that way. There's also a less immediately threatening but just as strong substitute Protect Kyurem, which aims at taking power points away from your Pokemon using its pressure ability while still using its powerful Freeze Dry Earth Power coverage. Any of these Kyurems could pose a massive threat to my team, and I cannot allow Kyurem to have its way, so I lead Scizor. That way, I can threaten Kyurem with a Bullet Punch immediately if it's the lead. I send out Scizor, and in front of me is Kyurem. I know my opponent will never let such a valuable piece take a ton of damage from Bullet Punch for free, so I click Knock Off anticipating a switch, and Scrafty comes in to take it quite handily. I go into my Zapdos to threaten a Hurricane, but I think my opponent will switch, so I click Thunder Wave instead. But they stay in, which isn't so bad since I paralyze Scrafty, but its Shed Skin ability will hail the paralysis eventually. Zapdos is running low on health, so I click Roost to get it back, but then I see my opponent switch into Kyurem. Uh-oh. The direst of situations I wanted to avoid was now here. Kyurem threatened a KO on my Pokemon if it was special, but if it was physical, it could set up if I switched to Heatran. I needed more information on Kyurem, so I leave Zapdos in to figure it out. Okay, that is Choice Specs. But because it is Choice Specs, It's locked into Ice Beam, so I can bring in my Scizor pretty freely. Like turn 1, my opponent doesn't want to let Kyurem take a Bullet Punch, so they switch in Scrafty again, but this time, I start the Vortex. Scizor U-turns into Starmie, Starmie flip turns into Scizor, and Scizor finishes off Scrafty with one more U-turn, while Starmie gets the jump on the opposing Scizor to flip turn back into my own. While my Scizor is still barely holding on, it's worth it. Scrafty has been taken down, and Scizor is in the range of any cleanup move from my cleanup crew. Though Scizor falls to Deoxys speed, I am able to bring in my secret weapon, Wo Chen. I leech seed Scizor, and thanks to the damage Starmie did, I can take it out with a foul play. But that's not the important part. While I may have lost what my opponent believes to be my best Kyuremancer, I'm actually holding a few tricks up my sleeve. Sure, Kyurem now has the initiative and is freely able to come in, and yeah, it does also threaten Wo Chen with an Ice Beam. I am able to click Protect. Sure, Wo Chen still isn't going to be able to take an Ice Beam next turn, but now I know what Kyurem's locked into, so I can freely switch into a Pokemon that resists Ice, like my Heatran. It sucks that I have to give up the Air Balloon, but I'm able to get up Stealth Rock on the switch out. Deoxys Speed form comes in, and we both go for broke. My opponent coming in with Deoxys likely means it has Focus Blast to crush Heatran, and I'm going for Magma Storm. Both of these moves are highly inaccurate, and if either of us miss, it will be a massive momentum shift. We both go for our moves, and my opponent misses. And I hit. Not only that, but I dodge a second Focus Blast, which effectively secures my victory as Cresselia cannot beat the combination of Wo Chen and Heatran, even with Terra. We survived the first round this time, but it's only going to get harder from here on out. Next, I would be fighting a Rain team featuring Mega Drampa, an incredibly powerful special attacker matched by its powerful attacks like Draco Meteor, Hurricane, and Thunder. Also on this team was Raging Bolt, a slow Pokemon with the nickname Kyurem Yellow thanks to its amazing stat spread. It has access to the move Thunderclap, a 70 base power electric type move that almost always goes first, if the opponent is using an attacking move. So while there is counterplay to it, Raging Bolt is able to boost up its special attack and defense with Calm Mind and punch holes using Thunderclap to offset its mid-speed stat. The Rain also supports Barraskewda and Tornadus Therian form, which could both cleave through my team if I wasn't careful. I lead my Starmie into Iron Treads. Great start for me. I click Zen Headbutt, knowing that either Pelipper or Raging Bolt will come out, and I'm able to inflict a massive damage onto Raging Bolt. But now my opponent has Raging Bolt in with the threat of Thunderclap. So I switch into my Heatran and set up Stealth Rock before missing a Magma Storm. My opponent makes a great play going into Pelipper after conditioning my Earth Power and sets up the Rain. They get in their Iron Treads with Magma Storm now weakened, allowing them to rapid spin the Stealth Rock away on my switch to Starmie. The Rain is currently up, so the Rain abusers are primed and ready to go. But in this matchup, Rain is a double-edged sword, because while my opponent might benefit from it, so does my Starmie, since its water type moves are boosted by the heavy rain by 50%, meaning I am able to go for an Aqua Jet to one-hit KO the Iron Treads before it can even move. But now my opponent brings in Mega Drampa, forcing me on the defensive while it can take my attacks. When it Mega Evolves, Mega Drampa will utterly thrash Starmie. I do leave it with a parting flip turn though, dealing about 40% before getting in Scizor to weaken it with Bullet Punch, letting Starmie take it out with Liquidation. The score is 5-4, but my opponent's Raging Bolt, Tornadus, and Barraskewda are still in the game, so it's far from over. My opponent brings in Bolt on my Starmie, and I'm able to make the same play with Heatran, but this time my opponent has wisened up and gets a powerful Thunder off, dealing about 40% of my health while I get Stealth Rock up. Rain runs out though, so my opponent is forced to get it back up by going into Pelipper while I sack my Heatran off. But now I am in a fantastic position. With Zapdos in, Volt Switch will get me a KO no matter what, whether it's this turn or the next. Pelipper and Barraskewda will faint to it while Tornadus is sure to take heavy damage, allowing my Starmie to pick it off with a rain-boosted Aqua Jet. And now Raging Bolt is also so weakened it cannot withstand another hit after. Wo Chen is let in, and my opponent doesn't sack the Raging Bolt here. Instead, they go into Tornadus, but it takes a lot of damage from the combination of Stealth Rock and Foul Play, putting it in range of another one. If Wo Chen can survive, that is. See, since Tornadus Therian took Stealth Rock damage, it cannot be holding the heavy duty boots item, meaning it is likely a boosting item like Choice Specs or Life Orb. I'd like to keep my Wo-Chen around just a little bit longer, so I Terra Poison it to take the attack and finish off Torn. But just as soon as I get the advantage, my opponent brings out their trump card, Barraskewda. It's a Pokemon with a very high speed stat and a good enough attack stat. It is faster than everything I have and is strong enough to KO everything too, with Terra Water Choice banned, as Wo-Chen falls to his Terra Water liquidation. But then I see something peculiar. Barraskewda takes damage, and seeing that, I know I have won this game. It's just a matter of time. I send in Zapdos to start the finishing act and click Volt Switch. Raging Bolt comes in to take it, but Starmie's Aqua Jet finishes it off. Pelipper comes in, but the 2 attacks also finish that Pokemon off as well. Now allow me to explain why I have already won, despite Barraskewda, the biggest threat to my team, still being around. Choice Band is an item that locks the user into one move but boosts the physical attack by 50% in exchange. That could KO all of my remaining Pokemon. But it's not Choice Band. This Barraskewda is holding a Life Orb, a similar item that boosts the user's damage by 30%, but instead of locking the user into the attack they used, it takes 10% of their HP every time they attack instead. Starmie's Aqua Jet brings down Barraskewda low, which secures me the victory. I have 3 Pokemon left, but Barraskewda only has 2 turns worth of HP to sacrifice to the Life Orb. Even if it critical hits Zapdos, it will still lose. Zapdos survives though, and due to the Life Orb recoil, I win regardless. That match was terrifying. Offense teams like that have always been nerve-wracking to play, but my biggest trial would be coming next. I would be playing Daniel Gaming 234. A player strong enough to have won one of these ZA tournaments. They were using a team with Raging Bolt, Zamazenta, and Meganium. Don't be fooled by that last Pokemon though. With the power of Mega Evolution, Meganium is a top tier Pokemon now, with an amazing Grass Fairy typing and special attack rivaling Mega Dragonite, backed up by Great Bulk. Mega Meganium's new access to Dazzling Gleam and Earth Power have redeemed this Pokemon beyond imaginable, and it is not to be underestimated. In fact, it's the Pokemon I fear most on this team, as it may prove unkillable for Starmie. We both start off with our dark types, Wo-Chen and Hisuian Samurott. I'm able to get some good chip damage on the Landorus switch with Giga Drain. They get their rocks up on my Zapdos as I Volt Switch out into my Heatran on their Raging Bolt switch. Our Pokemon pivot around until Zapdos is in on Landorus, who has just used the move Smackdown, a move that makes it so flying type Pokemon can be hit by ground moves. So now my Zapdos is threatened immediately with a KO by Earthquake. It's a move that pressures me to switch out, but I know my opponent will not click Earthquake. It's just too obvious for, say, Wo-Chen to come in to reset the situation. So I read my opponent to not click Earthquake, and I see them click Stealth Rock. And what's the move that I click? Taking advantage of this perfect read, I click Volt Switch. Am I stupid? I clicked the electric type move into a ground type. If I read my opponent not to switch, I should have just clicked Hurricane to damage a Landorus. The Stealth Rock were so free, and U-turn or Earthquake could be clicked next turn anyway. Now, whatever. We pivot our Pokemon around, and my Zapdos is in on Raging Bolt. My Zapdos should be faster, so I'll be able to Volt Switch in. Oh, that is a very fast Raging Bolt, trained to be faster than Zapdos that aren't trained in speed, I assume. I take the first Pokemon loss in this match. Not great, but now I know that since Zapdos was KO'd, it should be Choice Specs. So I'm able to get my Starmie Mega'd and flip turn out for some chip damage. The way I win this game is through softening this team for late game cleanup, and I need to make some progress on Raging Bolt. I bring in my Wo-Chen with flip turn, and it gets paralyzed by Thunderbolts. Losing Zapdos was bad, but this just made things even worse. My opponent brings in Meganium and Mega Evolves it. I go to my Heatran to get it Stealth Rock up to help my Pokemon later, and then bring Wo-Chen back in on my opponent's Hisuian Samurott. I get Samurott low with a Giga Drain before my opponent brings in Meganium, and I sack my Heatran to it. I bring in my Scizor to defog the hazards away, but ultimately this hurts me more than it helps, since it ends up with my opponent being the only ones with Stealth Rock after they set it up later on the field. Again, it's not good for me, but Starmie is able to come in and finish Landers off, bringing in Meganium. I flip turn on Meganium. Again, I just need more damage so I can finish it off later, and I bring in Wo Qian to sacrifice it. I bring in Starmie again, and this is the critical turn. I have to KO Meganium or I am out of the tournament after Meganium KOs my Starmie. I did my best to chip it low, and so I click Zen Headbutt, and I missed the KO by 5%. But I'm still in the game. Meganium is flinched, and I take it out with a liquidation. Next, Raging Bolt comes off to finish off my Starmie with a Thunderclap. As I mentioned before, it's a move that almost always goes first given its status as a priority move. But my Starmie's Aqua Jet is also a priority move. So what happens when the two go head to head? Well, the faster Pokemon moves first, and my Aqua Jet chips down Raging Bolt. Not a lot of damage, but because my opponent's Raging Bolt is choice specs, I've got it under my thumb now, as Thunderclap will always fail unless there's a move that goes after it. My opponent sacks their Samurott to save Raging Bolt, and now they bring in their Zamazenta. Zamazenta is a box art legendary Pokemon. It's on the level of powerhouses like Rayquaza, Mewtwo, and Miraidon, at least in terms of stats. So why is it here in OU? Surely a Pokemon on that level should be banned. Well, the thing is, Zamazenta Hero is actually pretty weak for a legendary Pokemon. It has base 130 attack. Strong, but it's no Kyurem Black. Zamazenta Hero was deemed weak enough to be allowed into OU. So here I am fighting a legendary Pokemon. And as you can imagine, even if it's fallen to OU, its box art legendary status makes it incredibly powerful here, with an amazing 138 speed stat and 115 on both defenses. Oh yeah, if that wasn't enough, the first time it enters battle, it has a defense boost. Like Kyurem, it can run many different sets, though they're all variations of physical attacks. Iron Defense Body Press to further boost its defense, then use it offensively for attack choice band and heavy duty boots, as well as Rest Zamazenta. They all have different counterplay, and I'm going to have to guess which set it is again. But I have a hunch that it isn't for attack offensive, choice band, or anything similar, because if it was, I'm sure it would have come in earlier. This Zamazenta must be a win-con with Iron Defense Body Press and Crunch, saving its Dauntless Shield ability for the time that it wants to win. I might be down to my last two Pokemon, but the last one is the absolute best I could ask for. I send out my Iron Valiant for the first time this entire tournament on Zamazenta's Crunch. And thanks to the booster energy speed boost, I can encore it into Crunch and set up a Calm Mind. And Terra Ghost allows me to cleave through my opponent's Pecharunt before Zamazenta also falls to a Moonblast. Now it's just Raging Bolt. And I have another guaranteed win, since no matter what Raging Bolt locks into, either my Moonblast will KO it now, or I will slowly whittle it down with Aqua Jet, and Thunderclap whiffs the KO, while Iron Valiant takes out Raging Bolt. I clutch out the game 2-0. Round 4 is against a Mega Chestnut user. This could be my most difficult matchup yet. I send out my Heatran on turn 3 and I win. Yeah, Heatran is just too good into my opponent. Their counters just get weakened over time, and Heatran just kind of sits there, clicks Magma Storm a few times, and it just wins. It was a horrible matchup for my opponent, so I don't fault them for much, and I'm able to get into round 5 versus a player named Dux, using my old nemesis Excadrill on sand, paired with a Mega Meganium like Daniel Gaming. There's another annoying Pokemon in Garganacl too, but I'm confident I can win. Starmie's Flip Turn does super effective damage into 4 of these Pokemon, and Zen Headbutt is doing a ton of damage to the other 2. We both lead off and Mega Evolve our Pokemon. I opt to Flip Turn into my Scizor and knock off the incoming Moltres' item off. I go into my Heatran while they U-turn into Excadrill, and then I bring in Wo Qian onto the field in response. The two of us exchange blows and maintain an even standing, but my Scizor eventually gets burned and weakened all the way down to a quarter of its health. But in exchange for this, I am finally able to position my Mega Starmie in, the position I had been looking for this entire game. I've dealt just enough chip damage to Mega Meganium and Moltres to threaten everything on my opponent's team with at least a 2-hit KO, so I attack. But my opponent goes Ogerpon Wellspring, a water grass type that is immune to water type attacks. That is the worst possible scenario. Ogerpon is one of the best Pokemon in the game, and it can threaten potentially every member of my team, and Starmie cannot one-hit KO it. I'll lose all my momentum here. Or I would, if I hadn't clicked Zen Headbutt, deleting almost all of Ogerpon's HP in a single blow, and finishing it off with a second Zen Headbutt. My opponent claps back with their Mega Meganium, but I'm able to chip it down further with Flip Turn into Scizor, and Scizor U-turns once again on the Moltres switch to get the Starmie vs Moltres position back once again. This time, I click Zen Headbutt, reading a Terastallization on Moltres and maybe into Grass. But instead, I whiff against Hippowdon switching, but honestly, that's okay. I just click Liquidation, and while Hippowdon barely survives it, it just whirlwinds me into Zapdos, and I don't think my opponent will give up their Sand Setter just yet, so I go into my Wo-Chien on their Garganacl switch, and then I sack off my Scizor when they switch into Meganium. Now Starmie's back in to finish Meganium with Zen Headbutt, but they instead opt to sacrifice their Moltres, and Zen Headbutt deals 63%, which is fine. The next one will K. Oh no! Flame Body triggered, burning Starmie. This is horrible. The burn status condition halves the damage of all physical attackers, but at least I got the Moltres KO, I guess. It's bad that Starmie got burned, but it's not the end of the world. 3 of the 4 Pokemon my opponent has left are weak to water, so it's still a good position for me, I think. I go into Wo-Chien on Excadrill's attempt to KO Starmie, and then I double into my Zapdos, expecting Meganium, and I get the play right, so I'm able to Volt Switch into my Heatran. At this point, if Magma Storm lands, I will KO anything that comes in. Hippowdon has been weakened. Meganium and Excadrill are weak to fire, and Garganacl will lose the 1v1. So I'm ready to click it, but Meganium is faster than Heatran, and it carries Earth Power to one-hit KO it. So I Terra my Heatran into a Bug type to unleash Magma Storm risk-free. And I land, taking out Meganium next turn. My opponent brings out their Garganacl, and the two exchange Magma Storms and Salt Cures until, at the end of it all, they both fall at the same time. The battle is now 2 on 4, and I'm freely able to bring in my Mega Starmie. Either Excadrill will come in and be felled by Liquidation, or Hippowdon will fall to Flip Turn. Hippo comes in to set up Sand for Excadrill, and I Flip Turn into Wo-Chien. My opponent now unleashes Terra Ground to boost their Excadrill's ground attacks, but it's too late. Wo-Chien does 86% to Excadrill, and after Wo-Chien falls, Starmie swiftly avenges it with an Aqua Jet, finishing the game. I have once again made it into the quarterfinals. I'm waiting for my next match to start, and I'm noticing it's taking quite a while. It's getting kind of late, so I'd like to wrap up this tournament, as while I feel a rush from playing, I am getting pretty tired. But my game starts and... oh no. It's Stall. It's an archetype I feel good playing against normally, but I am getting tired. Stall, like the name suggests, is a hyper-defensive archetype that aims to drag out games to slowly whittle away the opponent's team, making mostly very safe plays. Safe plays that heavily punish opponents for slipping up even the slightest bit long term. Normally, I wouldn't mind playing Stall, but at this hour my edge was certainly dulling. But that would make winning feel even better. Right? The game starts with Scizor on my opponent's Gliscor. I know my opponent will protect. Remember, Stall is about making safe plays. So I go into my Starmie to get it Mega'd, and I click Flip Turn, anticipating my opponent to want to switch. But I see something far more sinister. I see Starmie Mega, and then I see the worst possible outcome. Gliscor stays in, but after Starmie Mega evolves, it terastallizes into a Dragon type, the most effective typing against my team. Sure, I have Iron Valiant, but between Blissey and Clodsire, it's unlikely I'll have the chance to break through Gliscor with it. This Terra Dragon has turned a doable matchup into a downright unwinnable one. Regardless, I have to try, and I position in my Starmie on Dondozo and start using the one way I have to win this game, luck. My team might not have the best matchup into my opponents, but I have some moves that can give me a chance. Starmie's Zen Headbutt flinches Dondozo a few times, getting it low, and that's a great start for me. But for the next 13 turns, I have hardly made any progress. I've just lost HP on some of my Pokemon. I have to break the deadlock. On turn 31, both of us switch our Pokemon. My Heatran on their Clodsire. The way I will aim to break the deadlock is by setting up Stealth Rock with Heatran. This will help in offsetting Gliscor's Toxic Heal and Mega Dragalge's Regenerator abilities healing, giving me a better chance at breaking them. But my opponent has Clodsire in. It's a ground type with Earthquake that will annihilate Heatran. But I don't think they'll click it. It's too obvious for me to go into my flying type Zapdos. They'll probably go for something like a Stealth Rock too. So I go for Rocks and... oh, that's bad. That is not good. I just lost my Heatran, the Pokemon that could have taken out Blissey with Magma Storm and potentially even another Pokemon with it. The play I just made was horrible. My line of thinking was that they would click Stealth Rock instead of Earthquake, expecting my Zapdos, but they didn't have to make that read. I mean, why would they? I mean, they might not even have Stealth Rock, and even if they did Earthquake into my Zapdos, what's Zapdos going to do back? Hurricane doesn't do anywhere near enough to take Clodsire down anyway. This was a horrible miscalculation on my end. What I should have done was Terra Bug Heatran and Magma Stone Clodsire to take it out and allow Zapdos to Volt Switch freely. I've just lost a lot of ground, and my Stealth Rock gets defogged away anyway, so Heatran died for nothing. And for the next 34 turns, I make no meaningful progress until my Zapdos is in on Clodsire. At this point, I have to take some risks. If I don't, my team again will just get slowly whittled away by my opponent. So I click Hurricane, aiming for a confusion, and I get it. Clodsire gets lowered down a lot and is in KO range the next turn. I have weakened down both Clodsire and Dondozo. This should be a good position for me, but then it sets in. None of this matters. While I haven't realized it just yet, I've lost the game already. It didn't happen this turn, but as soon as I lost Heatran, I lost the only means of setting up Stealth Rock and breaking through the Pokemon that truly mattered. Gliscor, Dragalge, and Blissey. It didn't really matter if Dondozo, Corviknight, and Clodsire were down if they still remained. I just didn't have the tools to break through them. Every turn, my team weakened just a little bit more. And eventually, on turn 99, Halal Popeyes falls to Blissey. I have lost my tournament life, and I failed to redeem Starmie. But you know, it wasn't that bad. It didn't feel that bad to lose. I had a lot of people in my corner rooting for me, saying that my run was legendary and congratulating me for it. And my friend told me that Blunder in 3D even saw my usage of Starmie as the correct way to use it. People saw how strong Starmie was here using a Volt Turn style of pivoting. Plus, I even used Wo-Chen on a big stage in front of hundreds of people. So maybe it wasn't over just yet. I hadn't won the tournament, sure, that's certain. I can't go back in time and win it. But maybe I didn't have to be the one to do it. I didn't win, but I did show off just how strong Starmie could be, and that could inspire somebody after me to use it. I wouldn't be playing in any of Blunder's next tournaments, but I did watch a few, and I saw people using my Starmie principles. I saw somebody using Heatran Starmie Zapdos, the core that I used. And when I went to watch one of the finals games, what I saw was this screenshot. On one side, I saw a Starmie and a Zapdos, the same shell I used, but instead supplemented further by Alomomola, Iron Crown, and Dragapult, used by Toxic Hippo Soldier. And on the other side, I saw another Starmie with Landorus Therian and another Dragapult for U-turn pivoting. Even if I hadn't won, even if I couldn't get Starmie the win, Starmie was guaranteed a win here. And you know, these teams were pretty similar to mine utilizing Volt Turn with Starmie, and even if they weren't completely the same, even if they didn't draw any inspiration from mine, I at least knew my team building principles were good. The work I put in with Starmie mattered, and Starmie got its win too. Sure, it wasn't by my hand, but it did redeem itself from that horrible performance against Skirum. So that was enough for me, and I hope that was enough for you too, as I thank you for watching the entire video. Thank you to Blunder, 3D, and Lax for hosting these tournaments, and if you enjoyed, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, comment, or hype this video to support me. It would mean the world. Until next time, see ya.